My name is Aisha Gordon-Hiles and I am from London in the UK. Without awareness, Black people won't be able to heal from the trauma that they go through on a daily basis. And this project is instrumental in helping us do that. By hearing people's stories and listening to what I've got to say today, we can raise awareness of the issues that we're going through. To explain what Black trauma is, I need to start with the definition of trauma. So when they think about trauma, when we talk about trauma, often there's an emphasis on the emotional and psychological impacts, the remnants that are left behind following a terrifying event. But there's two problems with that. One, it doesn't focus on the sensory experiences of the individual, so what's happening in their body, the tension that's built up. And two, it doesn't factor in the fact that trauma is relative to where that person is in their lives. So, for example, if I said boo really loud to a newborn baby, that would probably traumatize them. But saying boo really loud to an adult might not. Just because saying boo to somebody that as an adult didn't traumatize them doesn't mean that the baby is not traumatized. And I think that is what happens a lot of the time for Black trauma. Things like racism, microaggressions, and attacks in the media, for example, are all part of Black trauma. Black trauma is vicarious, but it's also generational. So we are vicariously traumatized by things that happen in the media. And we're also carrying trauma from generations before us. So we're carrying trauma on a daily basis. We have trauma thrown at us through everyday experiences. So I think for me, Black trauma is all of those things. It's also spiritual. So many of us are disconnected from our spiritual ancestors, from our core. So when we're talking about Black trauma, we're talking about all of these things: the psychological, the emotional, the physiological, the sensory, everything. The trauma that Black people go through has a lack of acknowledgement, both inside and outside of the community. As Black people, we've been conditioned to keep calm and carry on. And that has served us well because it's helped us to get through insane things, for centuries. However, it's also the thing that stops us from healing because we're not acknowledging what we go through. And I think the other issue with that is that society also ignores it. So for me personally, that in itself is traumatic. You don't have to have gone through a traumatic experience to be traumatized. But hearing people ignoring and not acknowledging the things that you've gone through in itself is traumatic or a traumatic trigger. The physical and mental signs are shortness of breath, low mood, anger, withdrawing from friends and family, withdrawing from activities that you liked before, shame, guilt, tension stored in the body, trembling, numbness, the list is endless. In order to change that, we need to acknowledge what we're going through. We need to pay attention to ourselves, listen to our bodies, listen to our minds, listen to our spirit. From there, we can look at taking steps forward to mitigate against those things. For example, if you notice that you have a trembling sensation in your body, you might be able to practice things like grounding techniques to bring you back down into that moment. But without acknowledging those things, we can't take those steps forward. So, an example of grounding practices may be as simple as placing your feet on the ground, preferably without shoes, and feeling your toes on the floor, feeling the base of your foot on the floor. You can rock back and forth as well, but really paying attention to how it feels for your feet to connect with the ground below you. I always recommend to people to do it outside as well, because I think the connection with nature is really important. So by practicing that technique and practicing grounding technique, what you're doing is you're lowering your physiological responses. So when we go through a traumatic experience, it's because we've been taken outside of our window of tolerance. We all have a level of tolerance that we're able to cope with, okay? So if you feel that you've been taken outside of your window of tolerance, you might experience anxiety, you might experience trembling, you might experience hot flushes, and that's all taking you up outside of your window of tolerance. To ground yourself and bring you back into your window of tolerance, you use the activity I mentioned before with placing your feet on the floor. And what it does is it brings that energy back down in your body and it brings you back inside your window of tolerance. acknowledge it, okay, and find time to process it. We're too good at just keeping calm and carrying on and acting as if these things don't affect us. But the body keeps the score. Everything that we go through leaves a footprint on us in some way, in some shape or form. So find that time to process it. Journaling is a fantastic thing that you can do to help you do that. And there are thousands of organisations at the moment that are Black-owned that are supporting people to do this healing work, whether it's one-to-one therapy or peer support groups, online, or, you know, any type of activity that can bring you together with your community where you can talk about what's going on for you and you can acknowledge it will be beneficial to you. So to get support, it's important to have a look for organisations that I would say either are Black-owned or have Black specialists within them. You can get one-to-one support, you can get online and virtual support, there's podcasts, there's books. Do your research, there's a lot out there for us now. Black means everything. It's legacy, it's power, it's pain, it's love, it's light, it's darkness, it's physiological, social, emotional. For me, it means everything that I experience. It feels amazing to be Black. Being Black has made me who I am today, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I quite like me. It would acknowledge the trauma that my people have gone through. It would make considerations for these things. We would have specialists in every team, in schools, in other educational establishments, and we would make room for people to process their trauma. We would make room for people to journal. We would make room for people to meditate. We would make room for people to connect together. Society at the moment is very individualistic and it doesn't thrive on us coming together as a people to heal our pain. A society that not only allows us to come together and do that, but encourages us to come together and do that. That's what it would look like. So my business is called Self for Help, and it's about equipping you with the tools that you need to be able to turn to yourself to help you. I guess it started when I was about 6 years old. I had been through quite a lot of trauma myself, and I never wanted anybody to feel the way that I did. Fast forward, a lot of training and kind of to the present moment, and my business has been running for about 2 years now. I support people through one-to-one counselling, through training, through workshops, consultancy and more. I take everything that I have learned and everything that I have been through, and I use that to help people to understand themselves and find the right tools to be able to support themselves, because everybody deserves that. I've been able to help thousands of people process their pain, and I'm going to continue to do more. With awareness, we can heal.